class this morning. Got some family stuff going on, and there's a class reunion tonight. All kinds of other stuff. Not really looking forward to it, but I did promise y'all a couple weeks ago I was going to start doing these Teammate Talks live shows again on Saturdays. I normally would do it a little later. It would normally start around 3:30 or 4. But I've got to leave here by that time, so we're going to do it here. I want to go ahead and apologize for the echo. There's quite an echo in this room. And before we get started, because I want to talk about what we've been talking about all week, which has to do with where to look or where to figure out the types of things that are important to you so that you can start living to be the type of person that you want to be, or guiding your kids down that same path of figuring out who it is that they want to be. But before I get too deep into that, fans, I have been putting a lot more effort into my YouTube channel lately for the first time in probably like 12 years. So if you could do me a favor, head over there to YouTube. I think our page name is at Oklakicks, Oklakicks. Of course, you can search Peaceful Warriors Martial Arts and probably find us that way too. And give me a subscribe on there. Check out my shorts videos. Even if you just watch them all the way through, that's a big help for me. If you comment on them, even bigger help. If you react to them, that works too, right? Any way you want to engage with my content, I greatly appreciate it. Now, this past week at the studio has been Integrity Week, and integrity is one of the most important words of the week to me. I think all of our instructors have different ones that they like to focus on, right? Different things that they mean more to them. And so I try to approach it with the students exactly the same way. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live or who to be or how to think. I'm simply trying to help them learn how to think for themselves, while at the same time figuring out exactly what it is they look up to and exactly what they want to be. So where do you look when it comes to that kind of thing? Well, there's lots of places you can look, but let's start off with where we teach integrity to like young kids. I'm talking like 4 to 7, 4 to 8 years old. We start off by just describing it to them as keeping your word, because if you keep your word, you build trust, right? And this isn't just about honesty. It's a little different than honesty, right? This is about following through when you say you're going to do something. This is about living to what you say you want to live to, right? So, thank you for joining me on YouTube. Guys, drop me some comments. Be part of the conversation. I'm going to be pretty short with this live video, but I still always like to answer the comments. It makes these conversations so much more entertaining when I get to chat with y'all in the middle of them, right? And make sure, like I said a minute ago, you head over to our YouTube channel. I'm live on YouTube right now. And make sure you hit them subscribe buttons for me. I've been putting a lot more effort into my YouTube channel, so I got a lot of new shorts out and stuff like that. Get on them, watch them, comment, tell me what you like, what you don't like, what kind of content's funny and what's not. I just try to get in there and try to make some content I think is fun. Not all of my YouTube content is geared towards kids, but some of it is safe for kids. Most of it is safe for kids. There's a few things that might not be, but it's all good. So integrity with the little kids. Yeah, hi, Mr. Hall. Ruby, Devin, nice to see you guys on here. Yeah, man, feel free to keep dropping them comments as we talk. So when I describe integrity to little kids, I describe it as always keeping their word, because that's where it starts, right? And that's where you build that trust with people. And I've always told people, because I was homeless at 16 years old. And one of the things I learned when I was homeless is there are things more valuable than money. And one of those things is trust. If you have trust and you have where people can trust you and good rapport with people, then you can get or find the help and support you need to handle whatever situation comes your way. That's one of the things I learned when I was homeless. Like, a lot of people like to point to my homeless story and coming back into a good career and a college education, and then losing that career and facing homelessness again, to this successful business that I'm running now. And they like to see that as a picking himself up by the bootstrap story, but that's not really what it is, right? I wouldn't have got where I am today without support, help, and I wouldn't have got that without having the trust of the people around me. Shifting gears, I'm doing good. I got a class reunion later today. I'm not really looking forward to it, but it'll be all right. Yeah, thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for following. I really appreciate you. Now, when we get into integrity with the older kids, obviously it also means living true to your beliefs, right? So some simple concepts would be, if you think the world would be a better place if everyone showed you more compassion, then to live with integrity, you should be showing other people compassion, even if they don't deserve it. And, just still at least thinking. And I'm not saying get walked all over. I'm not saying let people walk all over you. What I'm saying is, when I get into a rough situation with somebody, I try to remind myself to not act like them. because I don't want anyone else that comes across that conversation to paint me in the same light they paint them. So when I deal with trolls online, I might troll them back a little bit, but I mostly am not talking to them. I'm talking to anyone else that comes across that conversation later. And the same thing in person, right? I try to remind myself that if I don't want to get viewed as a jerk or whatever word you want to insert there by anyone watching, then I need to not act like a jerk. Now, that doesn't mean I let someone walk all over me, but I will still approach it with compassion and empathy. Now, maybe that's not what's important to you, though. Maybe you have other things that are important to you. Maybe honesty is important to you. So if you believe the world would be a better place if people were more honest, then try to live your life with honesty. Now, a lot of people don't know who they want to be. They don't know the type of person they want to be, and they don't even know how to start with that. So that's what I was really getting into in this past week in my classes. It was all about, I'm not a big fan of looking up to other humans, because fact of the matter is we're humans, and I've had the unfortunate displeasure of meeting some of my heroes in the past, all of which turned out to be complete jerks that I wish I had never looked up to. So what I like to talk about is pay attention to your favorite media. So whether that's video games, books, manga, anime, TV, doesn't matter what it is, just your favorite stories, right? And then you have to ask yourself what it is that you really like about those stories, or pick a character in those stories and ask yourself what it is that makes you feel attached to the characters in those stories, because that'll tell you right there the type of person that you look up to, which will tell you the type of person that you want to be. So if you'll drop in the comments a character, a TV show, a movie, a book, or something like that, I'll give you guys an explanation using whatever you throw out there. I mean, assuming I understand your reference. I mean, obviously I don't understand all of pop culture. I'm getting older now, but I've got a pretty good background on movies, books, TV, at least, and video games. I still play. I've been playing video games since I was 3 years old, and I'm almost 4 decades into this life now. So I've been playing video games for a very, very long time, since the earliest of the video games. Now, if you find a character like that you look up to, let's say, for example, you look up to the fact that this character has developed an extreme amount of skill at something, right? Then you have to ask yourself, what is it that allowed that character to develop that level of skill? A lot of times what you're going to find out is it's because they don't give up, or it's because no matter what, they always try their best, or it's because if they fail, they get back up, right? Well, then that means things like discipline, grit, and perseverance probably mean something to you, right? So then from that point, now that you've realized that, you can start making those choices in your life. So next time you feel like halfway doing, sorry, I had to censor myself. Next time you think about halfway doing something, then remind yourself, would that character do it halfway, or would they go all the way with it and do the best that they possibly can with everything that they try? When you're faced with something that's very difficult and hard and upsetting, you can ask yourself, what would that favorite character of mine, how would they handle it? How would they do it? Would they approach it with kindness and compassion? Would they approach it with discipline and trying their best to get through it? Would they approach it with perseverance and not giving up just because it got difficult? See what I'm saying? And so once you figure out what kind of characters you look up to, you can figure out exactly what kind of person it is that you hope to be. And once you figure that out, you can start making decisions every single day to live by that, right? And this is something that I wish someone would have told me when I was younger. I mean, I didn't really start to realize all this until about the age of, 25, 24, somewhere in that range, before I started to realize that up to that point, I had let all my emotions control the type of actions that I took and the type of decisions that I made. And that's normal, biologically, that's natural. But your emotions can be fickle, and they're not always going to make the best decisions for you. And so there's only really a couple of ways to break out of that cycle. And I'm not saying you should resist or fight your emotions. Emotions are there for a reason. They're important, and we need to process them, or they can cause mental health struggles down the road. I have bipolar disorder. I understand that better than most, right? So I understand that. But at the same time, we do not have to let our emotions dictate and control the actions that we take, right? So one of the things that I do is when I get emotional, I make sure I only respond in calm. Right? So the more heated somebody gets, the calmer I try to be. Now, I'm not always great at that. It's an ongoing practice, right? But if someone starts getting loud, I hit them with the opposite, because most people are used to being hit with the same emotion that they're giving, right? I get angry, you get angry. Or I get angry, you get intimidated, right? Similar emotions to go with each other. But if I get angry and you get calm, that's going to completely change the dynamic of this normal conversation. And sometimes, active protection wise, that can be enough to really throw somebody off their game, right? Especially if they're physically threatening or whatever the case may be. So integrity really just comes down to living true to yourself. Now, that doesn't mean yourself shouldn't change. I mean, if you're the same person today you were 10 years ago, you're losing at life, right? You should be a different person. I mean, I like to look at my memories and old posts I've done, right? If I look back at a post I did 6 months ago or a year ago and I don't find it cringy now, then I know I'm not really growing, right? As a content creator. Same thing when I look at my technique as a martial artist or my fighting tactics. If they haven't grown or I haven't evolved them in the past year, then what am I doing, right? So integrity is about living true to yourself and to your beliefs, but you have to be open to change. You have to be open to new ideas. You have to be open to new experiences, and you have to be open to adjusting your perception as you move forward. I got into this with my capoeira class the other night. Most of the world, we like to think of it as binary. We like to think of it as this or that, black or white, supply and demand, all binary. But the truth of the matter is, the reality of it is there are very few things based in actual reality, right? So let's look at the stock market. If you want to look at something like commodities, so I'm talking oil, gas, steel, actual physical products that move around the world, then yeah, basic economic supply and demand matters. But once you move out of commodities, it doesn't matter anymore. It's not about real value. It's about perceived value. And it's about what you can convince other people to pay, right? So I'll even lump my studio into this, or martial arts studio. And now to a lot of people, what we do is invaluable, right? The experience is invaluable because experiences matter more than things anyway. And I kind of lost track of where I was going there. But fact of the matter is we're just offering classes, right? And we have to pay a certain amount to make it happen. So we have to make a certain amount to make it happen. But we're offering classes. So what it really comes down to is we can only charge the value people perceive our program to be, not actual value, because it's a service, right? It's not even a product or a commodity. And this same thing could be said about almost anything, especially when we're talking about digital products, because like you could theoretically sell an unlimited amount of digital products. So when you do that, supply and demand doesn't matter anymore. It's all about what you can convince people it's worth, right? A lot of the big brands like Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, they do this kind of stuff. They'll sell a $30,000 handbag that cost them $300 to get. And it's because they convinced other people they're expensive, because people want a few different things out of life, right? They either want to fit in and they want to be part of something bigger than them, right? So they want to have their little group, their social clique, if you will. People want that, but people also want to be unique. They want to be set apart. So if I make a purse and I make it so expensive only the richest people can buy it, and then I convince all the rich people that it's worth buying it because other people can't have it, because poor people can't have it, now it becomes a status symbol. So it's not that that bag is actually worth $30,000. It's that billions of dollars went into making you perceive that it's worth $30,000. Does that make sense, right? So this is what I mean by perceived value. I would venture to guess that north of 50%, probably much higher than that, of what the average person calls reality is not reality. It's perception, right? So the thing about it is most of us choose our perception of how we look at the world based on how the people around us look at the world, or based on how someone else looks at the world, or based on what our emotions tell us about the world. And none of those things are accurate. That's what builds this divisiveness amongst us, right? Is we all want to be part of our group, and then I'm part of this group, therefore not part of that group, therefore that group's not as good as my group, et cetera, right? But it's all perception. And one thing I learned when I was about 24 sitting in ICU is that if you can change the way you look at something, if you can change your perception about something, then to your world and to your point of view, you change that thing, and you change that thing's impact on your life. Does that make sense? So if you can learn to control your perception of how you look at things, then you can absolutely control your mood. You can control your mental health to a certain degree, depending on what kind of mental health struggles you have. You get a lot more control over your life that way. Or as one of my most viral videos I ever shot said, if you let the words and actions of other people control your mood, then anyone in the world can control your mood except for you. The first time I posted that video, it hit like 125,000 views on YouTube a couple of years ago. It was the first one I think I ever had go absolutely crazy like that. And it's still on there somewhere. It never did as good again on repost, but it's still a true sentiment, right? But if I change my perception about other people's opinions, so for example, if my emotions want to care about another person's opinion, as in they say something and I get defensive about it, well, that's my emotions telling me that I care about it, right? But I don't have to choose to respond with that upset, angry, or frustrated emotion. I can feel that emotion, but I can respond in a different way. I can also change my perspective of how I look at it to, instead of, well, that person sees me this way, I can change it to, all right, but does that person's opinion even really matter? Do I even really care about that person's opinion? Does that person do anything for me? Do they provide food for me? Do they provide love, safety, any of that? No? Then I don't really care what you got to say, right? I'll listen to it because I'm all about feedback, right? I'm a business owner, so I'm all about negative and positive feedback because all feedback helps us grow as a business. I don't want to be the same business today we were a year ago. I don't want to be the same studio in a year that we are today. I don't want anything like that. I want constant growth and evolution, right? But in order to do that, you have to have, the people involved who want to make it better. And you have to change your perception about what you do. On the regular, I have to change my perception about what I do. So I can't let the emotions control or dictate, because it's easy to get told by 3 people, and this has happened before in my business, get told by 3 or 4 people, we don't like this aspect of your business. Okay, well, maybe I can change that aspect of my business. Then you change it, and there's 80 people who don't like the change, right? So there's that part of it where you have to look at the perspective of it. So if I have 3 or 4 people complain about something, I first have to ask myself, is that just the 3 or 4 people, or is this an issue everybody's having? Which is why I'll kind of ask everybody, right? But just back to integrity, right? That's just me describing living true to myself. So when I was about 24 sitting in ICU, I chose the things that I felt like were most important to me. I'd been a homeless teen, so compassion and empathy were things that were very important to me. I also knew that integrity was something that was very important to me, because I was lied to and let down many, many times before I even ended up homeless, but afterwards as well. It was bad, because nobody likes to help or care for a homeless person. The most they want to do is buy you a meal, right? But that's one day. If I'm homeless for 365 days, there ain't 365 people that are going to buy me a meal every day. That ain't going to happen. Very few people will even offer me a place to lay my head, and the few places that do offer will often back down. Right, so I spent most of my homeless time camping in a park or in a truck between the ages of 16 and 18. So, that shaped the things that when I was 24, I realized were important to me. Compassion, empathy, discipline, grit. These are all things that I found to be very important. And so I started looking at how some of my favorite fictional characters do those things, how they react with those things and stuff like that. And I just started making, every day I would face situations and I would just try to make decisions based on what I look up to, based on what I feel is the right way to go about it, regardless of what my emotions might tell me, right? So in a way, having integrity is also an opportunity to build your emotional maturity and to build your emotional regulation and self-control, which is another part of martial arts, man. Like martial arts and parkour. In parkour, you fall a lot. In martial arts, you're going to get tagged in the face, tagged in the head, tagged in the belly, tagged in the legs. Sometimes it's going to hurt a little, right? And so those kind of things allow you to grow in resilience, allow you to see just how tough you actually are, how much you can actually take and things like that. So my job, because I don't teach beginners, so Miss Rose behind me, she teaches beginners, and her main focus is encouragement, right? Motivating, helping people, lifting them up, getting them to a point to realize they can do more than they thought they could, and helping them through those first easy steps. But then when they come to my floor, as their intermediate and advanced training, my instructor, my job is a little bit different. My job is to help them build their discipline, their resilience, their grit, their perseverance. My job is to challenge them each and every time they come onto the floor in ways they've never been challenged before, to allow them to see just how much they are capable of if they stay with something and stick their mind to it, which is a slightly different teaching philosophy. Just kind of necessary going up, right? You want to have a different teaching philosophy with a beginner than you do with someone who's been doing it a year, than you do with someone who's been doing it 3 years, etc., right? Because it's got to build over time. That's how these things evolve, okay?
So that's all I really wanted to say. If you watch this video later, drop some comments, head over to our YouTube channel. It's at Okla Kicks, or you can search Peace Warriors Martial Arts and probably find us that way. I believe it has our logo, the karate dude or whatever. I believe that's the profile picture. So you should be able to find it pretty easy. Give me a subscribe over there. Make sure you check out our short videos. I've been getting some traction, but in the last 4 videos I posted didn't do so great. I'll admit that. I don't always post good ones, but I can always use all's help. Even if you just watch the video through a couple of times, comment on it, whatever. Same thing on Facebook. I get a lot of engagement on Facebook, and I really appreciate each and every one of y'all that does that. But I just wanted to get on here and kind of explain in a little more depth, a little more detail, what I've been meaning all week when I have been talking about trying to figure out who you want to be and trying to figure out how to live with integrity. Just to make sure that, we're all on the same page and clear. Now, I know some of my students are going to feel like I was a lot more rough on them last week than I was the 5 weeks before, but it's that kind of escalation that will get them to figure out if they can step up and if that's important for them to build resilience and grit and things like that, or if that they need to work on that a little bit more, right? So you catch this video later, I'm gonna leave it up live. Make sure you leave some comments for me. I'll jump in here and answer. I want to say I appreciate everyone on YouTube. Mr. Hall, I hope I pronounced this right, Devin, Shifting Gears. I really appreciate y'all getting on here and commenting and talking with me. Loanne, very nice. I'm really, really happy to see you guys on here. I appreciate you. And until I see you guys again, be the best teammates you can be and be the best at being you. Y'all have a good one.